This is my English lathe built in the late 1940s that I partially restored. Um, for me, this is a brand new project, a brand new tool. I've never used a metal lathe or a wood turning lathe. So I really wanted to have an experience where I was able to utilize um, a lot of different features, so to speak, of the lathe. So initially it was just all about plain turning, and I really had no direction on what I was going to create. So I just kept turning this piece smaller and smaller until ultimately I had to make a decision of what I wanted to create. So I sat down and I decided to just draw up a little sketch of a screwdriver. Now I know, being made out of aluminum, that the screwdriver will not be that useful, um, but I just wanted to see if I could uh, make something from it, from this lathe. When I drew up my sketch, I wanted to incorporate little details, and it was, again, mainly so that I could uh, use these different tools that came with the lathe. For instance, this knurling tool. I believe this knurling tool was a homemade tool by the original owner. Um, the cutting wheels are on opposing sides of one another, so my knurling tool, I have to actually turn it around and set it up and cut the opposing threads. Overall, my knurling, I suppose, was okay. If you look at the knurling on the handle and then you look at it on the back, which is what you're seeing right now, there's a clear difference. So the consistency was not there. So I wanted this screwdriver to be made of three parts: a main shaft, this back piece that you're seeing here that I'm drilling out, and a wooden portion in the center. I'm drilling out a hole through the handle to accept a bolt to hold all three together. Originally, I tapped this back end piece, but later I just drilled it out larger. Here I am parting off the piece. This was probably the most nerve-wracking experience with the lathe. The tool kept wanting to dig in, and I believe that was my fault due to the fact that I did not have the tool perfectly centered. It was actually a little low, so it just kept digging in as I tried to part off. This is the main shaft. It's actually supported by a fixed steady because the shaft is really long and it protrudes pretty far from the four-jaw chuck. I had a tough time with the fixed steady. I didn't get it right. It's obviously something I need to learn how to use more effectively. It dug into my finish, so I had to clean it up. And only later did I discover I should have used a sleeve for the fixed steady. So I decided for the wood I wouldn't go with anything too exotic. I just wanted to try a piece of wood, and so I just chose this oak. Nothing really fancy. Now I know many of you are going to cringe what you're about to see. This lathe came with a center for holding wood, which is what you're seeing in the spindle. And I am using metal cutting bits to turn this down. So I apologize for the purists. Yeah, I'm just trying to learn here. Obviously, when I was working with the wood, um, I did a thorough cleanup when I was finished. I vacuumed everything down. I wiped everything down with a dry paper towel. Went back and vacuumed again, and ultimately cleaned it off and put some new oil back on everything. So everything was completely dismantled, just because I really want to take care of this old machine. Like I said in the beginning, it did have a break. This lathe had a broken part on it, and I made a repair, but it's a nice little tool. So here I am just cutting off the excess wood on the piece that I just turned down, and I cleaned up the ends off camera on the belt sander. I also drilled out the center off camera as well so that the bolt will pass through that piece of wood. Now this is a wood bandsaw that has been converted using a treadmill motor. I actually have a YouTube video if you want to watch it on the wiring of the treadmill motor, and I've installed it on this old Craftsman. It's a piece of junk Craftsman bandsaw. I am running with a metal cutting blade. The blade's dull, and that's because I've cut 1095 steel with this blade, and being new, I didn't use oil. So that was clearly my fault, and I basically wasted a blade. But I cut 5 different knives on this single blade, 1095, quarter-inch thick, approximately quarter-inch thick. So it was a dull blade, but it was good enough to cut off these small little pieces of aluminum. I just took it nice and slow. I'm using a scrap piece of wood right there as support. After I cut off the excess material, it was just a matter of grinding this down on the belt sander. It heated up pretty hot, but just I kept dunking it in the water, and you can see right there as it heats up. So just bringing it to shape with the belt sander. Like I said, that tip is probably so fine, it probably would not stand up to much use before it either bent or broke off clean. So this screwdriver will probably just be a little mantelpiece, a talking point. It was my first project, so I'm pretty proud of it. It was fun. I made a lot of mistakes, but I learned a lot. I hope that I can continue to learn on the lathe that I have, and hopefully you can see more of what I make in the future, and I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for watching.